Everybody's got to stop being scared. I'm not made of glass.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and as always you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. We are back for another show here to review or recap all 10 games from Wednesday and we're going to preview the 5-game Thursday that we've got coming up. So,
let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. As always, there's plenty of stuff to talk about, especially with 10 games on the slate. We will start off with the monstrous line of the night, and it goes to one of my boys, and that is, of course, Victor Oladipo, now of the Indiana Pacers. Oladipo scored 35 points, which included 5 triples. He had 5 rebounds, a steal, and 2 blocks. He was 11 of 18 from the field, and he was a perfect 8 of 8 from the free throw line. You can chalk this up to a revenge game if you want, but then you can also look on the other side of that box score and see how Paul George went in his revenge game and know that pretty much the revenge game narrative is a steaming pile of shit. But let's talk more about Victor Oladipo. He is the 10th ranked player this season, averaging 26, 4.5, and 3 with 2.2 steals, 2.6 triples, and shooting 51% from the field. And that's not going to stick. The shooting percentage at 51% is not going to stick. It just isn't going to happen. The 26 points per game, he could probably average 20 a game, but he's not going to stay at that level. But as I said last season, the way that his career is progressing, he was going to be a top 20 player. Now, the way that he was used in Oklahoma City was terrible. The fact that he never got to handle the ball was a disgrace on Billy Donovan's behalf. The lack of confidence that he had there, his defensive numbers all dropping, his ball handling dropping, all that stuff was poor, especially considering he improved his shooting. It was a real detriment to the way, I know Westbrook had the triple doubles and all that sort of shit, but the narrative that Westbrook had no players around him was a load of crap, and I said that many, many times last season, because Oladipo is good. Now, this is not a good team that he's on, and he doesn't have a teammate of the caliber of Westbrook here, clearly, but he is a guy that is quite a good player, I believe. And as he returned his defense to the levels that it was in Orlando, and some of that's on him. Yeah, he should be able to contribute defensively if he's not doing much offensively, but we know many players, they crack the shits, whether it be publicly or internally, if they're not getting the proper looks offensively, and their defensive production wanes. And I think that's what we saw a little bit with Oladipo last season, especially. And another thing, his free throws dropped. It was all confidence related. This year, he's back at 89% from the line. Killing it, real top 20 upside here, a guarantee, I believe, for a top 50 finish this season. He was 75th last season. I'd almost say a guarantee for a top 40 finish. Absolutely killing it. I can't really say enough good things about the way Victor Oladipo is playing. The thing is, he's only doing it in 32 minutes a game. He's had foul trouble in 2 of the 4 games, or 2 of the 5 games that he's played. Really reducing him down. Now, Miles Turner has been out for 4 of these 5 games, so maybe the usage comes down. But in the game that Turner played, Oladipo had 22 points on 12 shots in only 24 minutes. So in 34 minutes, maybe he was getting 16 or 17 shots there. The thing that is going to come down, though, is 61% from the field in this game, 69% in the last game.
Giggity!
Yeah, that sort of stuff is not going to be able to continue, but he is primed for a monster season, and we've seen it already. And if you drafted him, I think you should be feeling pretty good about yourself. The waiver wire line of the night goes to Spencer Dinwiddie. Yes, Spencer Dinwiddie. I've been a fan of Dinwiddie since he was a second-round draft choice of the Detroit Pistons. I didn't think he got a fair go in Detroit. I'm 100% certain he did not get a fair go in Chicago. Just ridiculous decision-making from the team that cannot find a point guard to save their lives. He would be the best point guard on their roster at the moment. With D'Angelo Russell out of this game with the slight knee issue, Dinwiddie moved into the starting lineup. Now, myself and Kyle, and Greg and Matt, we're doing all these little side bets through the season, and Kyle threw the first one out there today. He said, over under 30 minutes on Spencer Dinwiddie. He goes, I'll take the over. Me and Greg both went the under, knowing the way that Kenny Atkinson runs rotations and the way that Dinwiddie, last season when Lin was out, it was Dinwiddie and Whitehead who'd alternate starts and alternate minutes and play 27 and 21. We'll take the under. Kyle was right, because Spencer Dinwiddie put up some impressive numbers. He played 32 minutes. He had 22 points, a career high, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, and he hit 4 triples, and he was fantastic. Now, There will be people that will be rushing to go and grab him after this. D'Angelo Russell is day-to-day for the next game, so he could be back, and that'll push Dinwiddie back into that 20-minute role as a reserve, which makes him really valuable for a 16-team league and probably a 14-team league. In fact, he's the 130th ranked player so far on the season. Now, obviously, that's fueled or boosted a lot by what he did today. But I wouldn't be expecting this sort of performance all the time. He is clearly a low priority add for standard leagues, but fantastic stuff from him. He is a capable point guard. On a shit team like the Bulls, he would be their starter, and he would be a fantasy asset, a top 100 player. But with D'Angelo Russell in front of him and the bevy of other guards, Karis LeVert, the blue swimmer Alan Crabb, we saw the sexy boy Sean Kilpatrick back today. It is going to be hard for him to get enough minutes to be a constant threat in standard leagues. For example, last year he played 23 minutes a game, but he was the 193rd ranked player. This season he is getting more shots, but yeah, I don't think that he's a real hot ad or anything along those lines that you should be looking to go and grab. The young gun of the night, surprised we haven't had one of these already for Joel Embiid. He had 21 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. He hit a triple, he had a steal, he had 2 blocks, and he was 8 of 13 from the field and 4 of 5 from the line. Embiid is currently the 27th ranked player this season in 27 minutes per game. I am certain he will finish as a top 20 guy this year. His three-pointers are down on last year. He was hitting over 1 a game. He's at 0.5 this season. But he's got his efficiency up, 51% from the field, 90 from the line. Yeah, these are really, really big numbers from Joel Embiid. He just looks really, really tough to stop. I don't know how much more I can tell you about Embiid. He's going to be a top 10 player probably next season, I would guess. The real chance to get it this year, but I reckon he's a top 10 guy next year. I reckon he's the number 1 player in fantasy in 2 years' time, maybe even earlier. Yeah, challenging Yanni and Karl Anthony Towns, who are obviously a pretty worthy challengers to that crown. I think that will be the core of the top 3 for the next 4 or 5 years in fantasy, depending on, I guess, what happens with other incoming rookies. But he looks superb once again, and the confidence in his health, you should be feeling pretty good about it. The dud of the night goes to Embiid's teammate, and that is Dario Saric of the Philadelphia 76ers. He wasn't good. He played 17 minutes. He took 1 shot. He didn't hit that. He had 0 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. He is the 277th ranked player this season, but unlike a guy like Timmy Hardaway, who is ranked below that, Saric is playing 21 minutes a game. He is taking only 6 shots per game. So it's not, and the shots aren't falling. He's at 33% from the field, but it's not that's just the case. He just isn't going to get minutes. With Richaun Holmes returning as well, like his ability to get back up 5 minutes will be reduced. It's going to require a Simmons injury or a Bob Cove injury. And in this game, he played the 17 minutes, but he started the second half again. But it just doesn't work. Like he's not as good as his March last season from fantasy, especially would have you believe. He was doing everything. He had this through-the-roof usage. He was putting up sensational type numbers where he's getting 30 minutes a game and averaging 17 and 7. On 15 shots a game. He's at 6 shots a game at the moment. He's just not going to get that sort of usage. He's not going to get anywhere near it, which was a 28% usage with Simmons, with Redick, with Embiid, with Covington, who was there last year, with Fultz when he returns. Like, he's just not going to get it. He's not a 12-team league guy. He is not a 10-team league guy. He's struggling to be a 14-team league guy, in my opinion. It depends who else is out there, but if you're holding on to Saric, and I think I said this yesterday, if you're holding on to Saric, or maybe it was the day before, hoping for an injury, when Embiid goes down, or if Simmons gets hurt, or if you're holding on to that, well, you could do that for anybody. You could do that for any single player in the NBA. I'm going to hold on to Justin Anderson in case Robert Covington gets hurt. It's a waste, in my opinion. And we know that Saric was good, but it required a real interesting confluence of events last season for him to put up those numbers. And for that to happen again, I'm not feeling all that confident in that being the case for Dario Saric. All right, let's move on now to talk about these other games across the NBA. We'll start with the Minnesota Timberwolves. They took on the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons with a big victory at home here. Karl Anthony Towns, 23 and 10. Good percentages again, 3 triples and a block. He's just sort of doing what he needs to do. Jeff Teague only saw 29 minutes as he was bothered by foul trouble.
My name is Jeff.
18.6 assists, so a big step up from what he did last game. He's going to be up and down like this. I think his minutes will fluctuate a little bit, but his production will be fine. But again, I don't think he's going to live up to his ADP. Wigo bounced back from his dud of the night to have 21 and 3 with 2 steals, but the free throws, still a mess. 6 of 9 from the line and still continues to be a punt free throw type of player. Not that I think that will continue. Taj Gibson has seen his minutes come down. In this one, it was foul trouble, but that doesn't mean that Gorgie Jeng's minutes are going up. Gibson played 24, Jeng played 15, and we had Bjelica get 24 minutes in this one. There was no Jim Butler as well, remember. Jeng can go. Like Saric, he was picked, and he was picked too high in most situations, and you have to just bite the bullet, cut your losses, and get rid of him. And again, you could hold on to Jeng. What if Taj gets hurt? Like, Taj is playing limited minutes, and Jeng's not getting it. I don't see the point. Bjelica 7 and 3 in 24 minutes there, while Jamal Crawford got some extra run, didn't do much, and you can leave him for a deeper league guy, while Shabazz Muhammad was shit. 4 and 4 with a steal in 29 minutes, replacing Jim Butler, 1 of 9 from the field. Butler's not going to be out long term, so Shabazz can go back to being a guy that plays 10 minutes a night. On the Pistons, Toby Harris's big start to the season continued. He took 24 shots, which was fine because he hit 58% of them, 34 points, 6 triples, 2 steals and a block, and he is really, really gunning to be, or he is the Pistons' best player, it feels like, and he's gunning to be a top 50 player this year. Andre Drummond looks much improved as well. Some foul trouble did limit him. 28 minutes, 15 and 15 with 2 steals and a block. Only 3 of 6 from the field, but that's 50%. That's better than what you were getting last season, but it is starting to come back. And I think a 55 to 60% rate for Drummond would be classified as a huge success this season, and he could be on the way there. Avery Bradley owners who are panicking, hey, 24 and 3, that's pretty decent. So, that early worries that you had, and that's going to be the case on many players that I talk about, the early worries that you had, you can feel okay with those. While Stan Johnson, who had struggled in all those early games, he looked good. Kyle McEwen was really happy with that. 36 minutes, 15, 3 and 3 on 50% shooting. I think he's more of a 14-team league guy, but let's watch it. The minutes are fine for him, and if he can shoot at least at this level, then he will be a standard league asset. Reggie Jackson got, it wasn't a great night from Reg, 10, 2 and 4, while Ish Smith played 22 minutes and had 2 points with 13 assists. I'm not worried with Reggie here. We saw Langston Galloway get in the mix. And finally, Henry Allenson back in the rotation. Played well in game 1 and then eliminated. I don't understand why Van Gundy did that. Van Gundy also said he pretty much looks like a dick now for taking him out of the rotation. So I imagine Allenson sticks for a while now. 14 and 5 with 2 triples. So 20-team leagues, you want to pay some attention because Allenson should have that backup power forward role locked down. Luke Kennard, who seemed to have a consistent role, he only played 2 minutes of garbage time, which is a little bit of a weird one considering how he had played in the first couple of games of the season, or in that first little run of the season, I guess is probably the better way to phrase that. The next game, that would be the place for us to go. It is Denver and Charlotte. The Denver offense just is horrible, and it feels like that they are trying to fit in around Paul Millsap instead of trying to make Millsap fit in around them. Now, I was worried about Millsap last season with age decline, and he was bad, and he wasn't bad. He was much worse than people anticipated, and many people attributed it to the fact that he was playing alongside Dwight Howard. I wasn't so quick to do that. I thought that there's a real chance that his drop-off was coming, and it's coming. Okay, he's not playing well at all. 8 and 5 in 28 minutes for Millsap. I'm not saying that he's a drop guy or anything like that, but if you had any ideas of him going back to being a top 20 guy, I reckon you can erase them from your head. It just isn't working. The minutes aren't there. He is struggling quite a bit, and he's not fitting this offense, and he's gumming things up for everyone else. Now, Nikola Jokic, he was good, 18 and 11, but no assists is a weird line for Jokic. And all the people who are panicking about Gaz Harris, I was even getting them at halftime. Oh, do I drop Gaz Harris? He's killing me. He's terrible. Like, is he getting lazy? Like, no. He had 13 points in the fourth. He ended with 18, 2 and 1 with 4 triples. The shots were there. He took the most shots on the team. He's going to be okay. The same with the Blue Arrow. Now, my confidence in Jamal was dropping a bit, but again, I was getting him here. Oh, he's trash. I've got to get rid of Murray. He's terrible. So I go, he just dropped 16, 3 and 5 and still hasn't hit a 3 for this season. Look, the spectre of Eric Bledsoe coming is a concern, but if you're gonna drop a guy based on something that potentially might happen, I don't think that's the smart way to go. This is why we drafted Jamal and said he was a good pick. I never thought that drafting him at pick 60 was the way to go, and I said that numerous times because you're taking all the value out of him. If you grab him at 90, it's great, and then if someone else grabs him at 60, oh well, Who cares? Get someone else. Get your Daz Collisons. Get your Jeremy Lin. Obviously, Jeremy Lin didn't work out too well, but that's the way you had to approach it. So you're looking at a guy that you hopefully got with one of your last 4 picks, and this is the sort of thing that we were hoping. You don't hope for 35% on 20 shots. Actually, he had more shots than Gaz, but this is a good line. And add a couple of threes to that. He missed all 5 of his threes. He hits 2 of those. You're talking about a massive, massive line from Jamal. So early season panic. We just need to reel it in quite a bit. Will Barton, you just annihilated your percentages. He had 9, 7, and 6 in 29 minutes. For all the hoopla about Barton being great, he's still ranked outside the top 100 this season. I don't think he's good. That's not going to change in my mind. He was 31% from the field. He was 1 of 3 from the line. Wasn't a great Barton night. Now, if his free throws got back up to 70%, then he probably would be a top 100 guy. So maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. I just don't think he's fantastic. While Manny Moutier, who played alright, he missed all 8 of his shots in this one. It wasn't the best performance from Moods. Onto the Charlotte Hornets. We had the return of Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. They said he was going to be limited to 7 minutes in each half. In fact, he only played 11 minutes and had 2 points. I see many people really clamoring, oh man, I've got to add Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Batum's out, he's going to go off. That's just not who Kidd-Gilchrist is, in my opinion. Look, he'll provide you some good rebounding. He'll provide you a steal and a block maybe, but he's not going to come out and start banging in 18 a night and 10 boards with 2 blocks. Like, he's just not going to take full advantage of Batum being out, as many people seem to think. While he is a decent ad, and Marvin Williams continues to be shithouse, Kidd-Gilchrist is a low upside, low priority type of 12-team league guy. Now, he can work and he can fill out your roster perfectly and he can be the right guy, but he's not I've got to drop everyone to get Kidd-Gilchrist. That's not how I see it. Jezza Lamb, another strong night, 16, 2, and 5, a steal, a block, and 3 triples. Must own until Batum returns, in my opinion. And the Frank the Tank takeover continues. 28 minutes for Kaminsky, 20 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. The percentages are up this season. Marvin Williams looks terrible once more. 9 points with 4 rebounds for Marv. Marv can go in 12s, in my opinion. Frank is a guy to add. Dwight Howard continues to be real sexy. 15 and 19, 2 blocks, shit bloke, good line, and that's what we care about. He was 7 of 11 from the line, so you know that that's going to be a consistent issue for Dwighty. But those numbers, he's been really, really good. The Baconator moved back to the bench with Kidd-Gilchrist back. Still played 25 minutes, Dwayne Bacon, 5, 4, and 2. But when Kidd-Gilchrist gets his 30 minutes back, then Bacon's going to go down to a much, much smaller role. And I do have to shout out Malik Monk, who had his best game, 17 points on 50% shooting, 2 steals, 3 triples, 25 minutes. I don't see him as a standard league guy. I don't see him pushing into a standard league role this season. Remember, we are still missing Batum and Carter Williams, who are probably, Batum's still 6 weeks or so away. Carter Williams maybe a week or 2 away there. And Monk can have streaming value, but I don't see him as a standard league guy for this season. The Houston Rockets and the Philadelphia 76ers. Jim Harden, well, first of all, this game, the Sixers choking away a lead late was horrible. I didn't think that the goaltending call against Embiid was correct to get the Rockets really back into it, but so what? That's just what happens. A huge comeback from the Rockets, terrible late game execution from the Sixers. Harden had 27, 3, and 13. He had 3 blocks, including a key late one against Jared Bayless to basically give them a chance to have that Eric Gordon game winner. And speaking of Eric Gordon, he had 29, 4, and 5 with 5 triples. He is going to line at a ridiculous rate. It will not continue at this rate. He was nowhere near that sort of level last season. He won't be able to continue hitting these shots at this sort of, or getting to the line that much. Again, it is a perfect sell high. He's looking like a top 50 guy. It will not continue, but if you can get a top 50 guy back in return for a guy like Eric Gordon, now's what you should be doing. What you shouldn't be doing is selling high on Clint Capella, because he had 16 and 20. He had a steal, he had 4 blocks, he was a perfect 2 of 2 from the line. I couldn't have been more all over Clint Capella this season, and he has probably exceeded what I hoped he would do. The free throws have been okay as well most nights. He's killing it. The problem is I just get the feeling, or get the fear, that D'Antoni's going to dick him around and play him 21 minutes so that Nene can get in there. But 30 minutes a night is what Capella should be doing every night. Really good numbers. And this is something to remember for DFS people, is that Embiid puts up good numbers, but the players against him, they've been able to put up good fantasy numbers as well. We've seen that over the last 2 games. Ryan Anderson hit 4 triples for 14 points. Stream him, and that's probably about it. While Luke Mute and PJ Tucker, who took on the bulk of the minutes with Trevor Ariza being out, they didn't do enough to warrant them being 12-team league guys. Isaiah Cannon also made his second Houston debut. For the Sixers side of things, Bob Cove, 36 minutes, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 triples, 2 steals, 1 block. This guy's an animal. He's a top 50 player. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a top 50 player this season. He's getting way more shots than even I anticipated, but that's, again, not why you drafted Covington, and anything there that he does is a bonus. Simmons is opening up so much for him, as is Embiid, as is Redick, and it's really paying off. Speaking of Redick, big night from him, 22, 5, and 4, while Benny Simmons was 14, 7, and 9 with 3 steals and a block. Poor percentages from Simo, but those counting stats are super, and his points league value is really through the roof. Jared Bayless played 31 minutes. Wasn't a great night, 9, 2, and 2 with 2 triples, but we do have to remember that he did play those minutes. Everyone's going to be talking TJ McConnell. Now, he had 28 minutes here with Markelle Fultz out for this one and at least 2 more. 6 points for TJ, but 5 rebounds, 9 assists, and 6 steals, which is a very, very sexy line. Now, I'm going to call out to listen to this podcast, Dylan, who told me he's going to lock it in. It's an absolute lock that TJ McConnell was going to get a quadruple-double. He got a quadruple single, so I guess you're not too far off there, Dylan. Apologies for shouting you out or calling you out there, but it is a fantastic line from TJ. But one, again, we do have to remember that's great. Look, that's fantastic. But when Fultz comes back, I don't see them going out there and putting McConnell over Bayless, because Bayless is out there because of his shooting, along with Simmons, spacing things out and helping Simmons and Embiid get the lanes and get in there and really help to spread everything out. McConnell put up good numbers. You can run that second unit, but it's going to be hard for him to find this level of minutes in the games when Fultz is back. Now, when Fultz is out, that's fine. You can add him. He's Joel Embiid's favorite player. We know that. He's putting up that's really good numbers, but it's more of a deeper league situation. For 2 games, fine, but long term, I don't really see it with TJ, unfortunately. For the Cavs and the Nets, massive win for the Nets to get this victory over Cleveland. The Cavs look lost, and who would have thought that bringing in Derrick Rose, Dwayne Wade, Jeff Green, and Jose Calderon would have made your team worse? Massive, massive shocker. LeBron had a triple-double, 29, 10, and 13 with 4 blocks. He has been a monster this season. Free throws weren't good, even though I talked them up in yesterday's game, and he missed one down the stretch that maybe cost them the game. But still, the numbers are fantastic from LeBron. Kevin Love, 15 and 12. They still don't go to him enough in a situation where Kyle Korver's taking more shots than Kevin Love, or Jeff Green's taking almost the same. Coaching really needs to be addressed, in my opinion. Tristan Thompson started, had 3 and 8, as did J.R. Smith. He started and had 2 and 4. Neither of those guys should be touching your 12-team leagues. Jose Calderon was back in the rotation with Dwayne Wade out. Now, yesterday, Ty Lue said, the reason we limited Dwayne Wade's minutes in this one is because it's a back-to-back, and then he doesn't play him in the second half of a back-to-back. Have some consistency in the bullshit that you spout. Now, as for Wade, that I believe that he's a droppable player. Kyle Korver got hot, 22 points with 5 triples, streamer, that's about it. While Jeff Green, an inexplicable 27 minutes, 18 and 6 with a steal and 2 blocks. Now, in fairness to Jeff Green, that is a fantastic, fantastic line. But he played over Jay Crowder, who is real close to being droppable. In fact, I think he's in the drop zone. Jay Crowder, 21 minutes, 5, 1, and 1. He had a decent game first up, and the minutes have come way down. He is really struggling. He is someone I didn't draft anywhere, I don't think, this season, because I thought his ADP was 50 spots too high. You might have to bite that bullet if you took him at 60, much like if you took Saric at 60 or 70. You just might have to bite that bullet and move on from him. I think it's going to be a struggle for Crowder to be a consistent top 100 guy this season. On to the Nets, Rondae Hollis, and this is what I want from Kenny Atkinson. Play your better guys, big minutes. 35 minutes for Rondae, 19, 6, and 2, 2 threes, a steal, and 3 blocks. Has to be owned everywhere. Must-own player, Damari Carroll, 32 minutes. 18 and 7 with 3 triples and 4 steals, has to be owned everywhere, and these guys aren't. The Blue Swimmer, only 24 minutes, but 19 points with 4 triples and 3 assists, should be owned everywhere. I would have Hollis Jefferson and Carroll above above Crab, but I guess it depends. If you're looking for defensive numbers, you take Rondae, but if you're just really desperate for points and threes, then the Blue Swimmer, he might be the guy you want to look at. Now, we do remember that D'Angelo Russell was out of this one. Interestingly, the other sexy boy, Sean Kilpatrick, he returned to this game, and Isaiah Whitehead didn't play. So we had Kilpatrick playing those backup point guard minutes, and Karis LeVert doing some backup ball handling. Now, LeVert played just 30. He had 10 points with 4 assists. He was in line for a big game. He took lots of shots. but it didn't really fall for him in this one, while Jumpin' Joe Harris had 11 points with 3 triples. He could be the Duke this season. He could be the surprise 3-point streaming. I think he might have been that last year. Surprise 3-point streaming option. Trevor Booker, 6 and 8 in 20 minutes. The luster has come off him. Not a must-own 12-team league guy. Tim Mozgov had a 0 usage rate in 12 minutes. Did not take a single shot. Had 2 rebounds, and any ideas of him being a 12 or even 14-team league guy can go. Jarrett Allen played more minutes. Didn't have any blocks, but had 2 points in 14 minutes. He is a guy to watch. He's a guy to keep an eye on. And if you've got stash ability in a weekly league or a roto league, I would have a look at him because it feels like only a matter of time before he moves into that starting lineup ahead of Tim Mozgov. The San Antonio Spurs and the Miami Heat. LaMarcus Aldridge continues on with his red-hot form, 31 and 7, 2 steals and a block, just killing it while Kawhi is out. At some point, it is going to drop off his usage especially, but for now, and with Kawhi likely out another week at least, Aldridge is putting up those numbers, as is Dan Green, who was 86% from the field for 15 points, 3 triples and 7 rebounds. Add him. I'd be adding him over Saric. I'd be okay with adding him over Jay Crowder, Dwayne Wade, those sort of guys, but don't be holding on expecting this sort of production to continue. Also a great night from Rudy Gay, who had 22 points on 8 shots in 26 minutes. He's fine to add it as a 12-teamer, but his upside's not quite that high. Pau Gasol got it done, 13 and 9, but the 19 minutes, it's somewhat of a concern for Gasol to only have that sort of playing time in a game when Joffrey Laverne was out and Pop went small as a result. Kyle Anderson had 12 and 10. He's got 14 team value while Kawhi is out. While DeJounte Murray, the party stopped pretty abruptly. 0 points with 3 rebounds and 3 assists in 24 minutes. He's still an ownable guy. I would prefer the other Murray over him. But yeah, if you did add DeJounte and there's no one else out there, don't just drop. And I get this question all the time. Should I drop this guy? And the question is always, well, who are you adding? You're never just dropping anyone and go, I'm just dropping him. That's all I'm doing, just dropping this guy. Like, that's never what it is. So you could say, is DeJounte Murray droppable? And I would say, well, who are you picking up? If you're picking up Jamal Murray, fine. If you're picking up Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, fine. If you're picking up Dario Saric, then no. So it always depends on who's coming back the other way. There's never a situation, unless it's like, do I take this guy off IR? Have to drop someone. But then specify that. For the Miami Heat, Hassan Whiteside was out and he could be out for the rest of this week. They made a change to their starting lineup and Jordan Mickey went from starting to being a DNP CD, and Bam Adebayo moved into the starting lineup, 4 and 8 with a block for Bam in his 20 minutes, but again limited as they went smaller and they played Kelly Olynyk at center because he was getting roasted by LaMarcus Aldridge. He only saw 12 minutes, and Jim Johnson played 36. Yes, Jim Johnson. I got a tweet again at halftime. Jimmy Johnson's killing me. He's not doing shit for me. He's terrible. And he finishes up with 21, 9, and 4 with a steal and a 3. Yeah, did a great job. Got those extra minutes at center, and that opened up some minutes on the wing for Tyler Johnson, who had his best game of the season. 23 points in 33 minutes with 3 assists, a steal, and a block. That still doesn't make me want to go and add him. Maybe you can look at him short term while Whiteside is out, but not really feeling that too much. The iron shoulder was fantastic. 20 and 4 in his 37 minutes. That's Goran Dragic, while Dion Waiters played through his bum ankle and played 40 minutes, 17, 2, and 5. Inefficient as always. Still should be owned, but I don't think he's a high priority guy. Joshie Richardson, not his best night, 1 of 8 shooting, fouled out in 33 minutes, 6 and 5, but still bought it peripherally, 3 assists and 3 steals. And overall, his fantasy value was actually better than Dion Waiters' 17.9 because of his ability to contribute in those other categories. The next game, the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Darren Collison didn't have 16 assists, but had 18 points. He had 3 assists, 2 steals, and 2 triples, and continues on his really, really strong start to the season, while Thaddeus Young had 14 and 4 with 2 steals in 33 minutes. Domantas Sabonis got himself into foul trouble, #revenge game. 19 minutes for Sabonis, 4 and 11, but while Miles Turner remains out, Sabonis does have some value, because we've seen him, I think he's played 4 games without Turner. 2 of them have been good, 2 of them have been struggles, and that's worth having a look at. Bojan Bogdanovic, 16-team leagues. I don't know what a 15-team league is. 16-team leagues, maybe. He just does nothing on a consistent basis. Missed all 7 of his shots in this game. Shout out to Fred Katz, who said that Bojan looks like Prince William, and I now cannot get that image out of my head. Corey Joseph was red hot yesterday. Not so much here. 6 points with 2 steals in 21 minutes. You can leave him for the deeper leagues. And please, if you own Lance Stevenson in 12s or even 14-team leagues, get rid of him. He can't crack 20 minutes. He is shit. I said that yesterday and I'll back it up again. He is shit. Damian Wilkins also appears to be out of the rotation. For the Thunder, Russ had another triple-double, 28, 10, and 16 with 3 steals and 2 triples. He is getting it done. I suppose it helps a little bit when Paul George, #revenge game, played only 19 minutes and had 10 points because he fouled out. As I said, you can use revenge game when it's positive, but remember when the shit ones come in, because there was 3 revenge game situations here. Paul George, Victor Oladipo, and Domantas Sabonis. One of them was good. So when you look at that and you want to factor that into all your moves and your DFS lineups, it doesn't work. It just doesn't, as a general rule. Mallow was fantastic, 28 and 10. I reckon he's going to end up being a big steal in fantasy drafts. 3 blocks and 3 threes, while Steve Adams brought it defensively, 17 and 11 with 2 steals and 2 blocks for Steve. With Paulie George limited, we saw Josh Hustis play 26 minutes. He was in the rotation ahead of Terry Ferguson, only 3 and 3. But interestingly, because Hustis is a guy that's really only ever played in unimportant games or in blowouts, so he got some rotation minutes and he looked okay because Andre Robertson continues to struggle. He doesn't look like he's going to play 25 minutes a night this season. He's getting either replaced by Jeremy Grant or Alex Abrines or Ferguson or Hustis in this case. And I'd much rather a guy like Kid Gilchrist over Robertson. His minutes are down. He's like a 16-team league guy at this point, while Pat Patterson continues to struggle. At least he scored for the first time in his Oklahoma City career, but just 3 points in 17 minutes, not really getting it done for anyone, I would guess. Memphis and Dallas, big win for the Mavericks, their first for the season. Marc Gasol was tremendous, 26 and 11 with 5 triples, 4 assists and 2 steals. And Mick Conley, the panic hopefully has subsided over Conley, 21, 5 and 3 with 3 threes there. The Dylan Brooks, oh my God, look at this guy, narrative probably needs to stop. 28 minutes, 4 points and 2 rebounds. The minutes are still fine, but remember, there was no Chandler Parsons, no Wayne Selden, no Benny McLemore in this one. And when those guys come back, Brooks is not going to get that playing time. His production has waned. Clearly, you can drop him in 12-teamers. Andy Harrison's also pretty terrible. No one's owning him. Jim Ennis, the minutes were there. The double-double wasn't. 8 and 4 with 2 steals in 34 minutes. While Tyreek, this is the Tyreek that I said that if you take a last-round flyer on him, it could work out. 13, 4 and 2 in 25 minutes. I'm not saying that he's a guy that you necessarily should have held on to or you need to go back and add, but if he's getting 27 a night, these lines will become more common and they will have that level of value that you like. It wasn't a great Mario Chalmers night either, 8 and 4. I would rather him over Dylan Brooks though. He's been putting up some decent numbers. But when again, Selden, McLemore, Parsons comes back, all these guys will have to lose some playing time. For the Mavs, change to the starting lineup and everyone was pumped. Nerlens Noel was starting. He played 20 minutes, so it doesn't really seem to matter if he's starting or not. 20 minutes, 8 points, 5 rebounds, a steal and a block. I would still be owning him because that's still decent enough to keep holding on to, but he is never going to get that chance to be a top 30 player, which we know he can become. Really strong night from JJ Barea, 14, 5 and 4 with 2 steals. He has some decent value, at least until Seth Curry comes back. Probably more a 14-team league guy than anything, while Wes Matthews had a nice game after a stinker the other day, 16 and 4. Dennis Smith, 19 points, 5 assists, 3 triples, red hot shooting, but he is being sort of just held back, like he's not getting 32-33. He had 28 minutes in this one, while Dirk was at 13, 5 and 3. And I think Dirk's low upside makes him definitely a 10-team league drop and probably a 12-teamer. The pencil, Harrison Barnes. So many people, again, asking me, I'll say it for one more time. Why do you call Harrison Barnes the pencil? Here it is. In everywhere else in the world, apart from the United States, because for some reason you have to have different units for absolutely everything that you measure in entirety, everywhere else, the most common type of pencil is called an HB pencil. I have actually got an HB pencil in front of me, and for you guys on the video, for the time being, I am going to take the box scores off the screen and I'm going to hold it up and see if you can see it. Let's see, this is great for audio. Who can see that? It's very fuzzy, but it's a HB pencil. There we go. HB. What you guys in America would call a number 2 pencil. Everyone else in the world calls it an HB. Harrison Barnes' initials are HB. Therefore, I call him the pencil. If you say like HB in Australia, in Canada, in anywhere else in the world, people just go, oh, pencil. It's what you're just used to in primary school and dealing with a pencil. Can't really call him the number 2. Sounds like he's a turd. So that is why I call Harrison Barnes the pencil. As for the pencil, the shot is not falling. 15, 6 and 3. Still have to hold on to him. His upside is limited, in my opinion, by his lack of peripherals. The shot will fall in. He'll start having some more 20-point games and 45% shooting nights, but he does have limited upside. Good to see Devin Harris back after his brother's death. He got back out on the court. He will miss Thursday's game, though, which is against the Grizzlies again, as he prepares for the funeral for his brother. The Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns. Terrible, terrible loss from the Jazz. Fantastic win from the Suns. We'll talk Utah first. Ravishing Rick Rubio. Yes, this is why you would have drafted Rick Rubio, is to get these numbers. 15, 4, and 11, 4 steals, a block, and a triple. Yes, he was only 40% from the field, but for him, that's pretty decent, obviously. And this is why you drafted him. This is also why you drafted Rudy Gobert. 16 and 14 with 5 blocks. He was actually a really good 6 of 8 from the line as well. So those two guys did what they needed to do. Jingle and Joe, 11 and 6 with 3 steals. He looks like he's fine coming back from his gastric distress. Fine. Rocket Rodney, this is why you had him. 22 points with 2 assists in 35 minutes. 35 minutes is a great sign as he returns from that calf problem. If he is on the waiver wire, I'd be looking to take a speculative ad because getting 22 points is not easy to do. Even Derek Favors looked good, 15 and 7 in 31 minutes. That's the first time I've really been able to say that about Favors all season. He's a guy that does have top 50 upside. I really don't think he is going to get there this year. But if he is around, I'd own him, say, over a Pau Gasol. I feel like his upside is higher. But the bench was just atrocious. Don Mitchell, 13 minutes, 2 points. Horrendous. 1 of 7 shooting. 12-team leagues, get rid of him. 14-teamers, get rid of him. Alec Burks was out of the rotation. Joe Johnson was terrible. Tabo Cephalosha backed up his double-double with 4 and 2. Alec Burks didn't play at all. Just a horrendous bench performance from the Utah Jazz. Really embarrassing. On the Suns, well, it just continues to invite more confusion in this rotation. They went with the same starting lineup, but Tyson Chandler got himself into foul trouble, so only saw 22 minutes and had 6 of 10. So that meant Alex Len stepped in and had 13 and 13 in 30 minutes. So what does Jay Triano do now? Will he go to Len and play him more minutes, as he should? Or will we see 30 minutes of bullshit from Tyson Chandler again? I'd be okay looking at Len and adding him and just seeing, but I have zero confidence. Dragan Bender looked fantastic in his 21 minutes, but I feel like this franchise just refuses to give him the opportunity. 3 and 4 with a steal and 2 blocks. And that doesn't stand out greatly from a fantasy point of view, but his ability to defend is really, really good on the court. And I don't think he's a 12-team league guy. I don't think he's even going to be a 12-team league guy if he gets 30 minutes. He's not the stat stuffer like Marquise Chris is, but he's a better player. And I'd love to see him get those minutes. As for Chris, he rolled his ankle late. He said he is fine. He didn't return to the game. It was not a good night from him. 4 and 5 with a block. I would still own him in 12-team leagues. While Mike James, who played 27 minutes in the last game, only saw 22 here and had 5 and 4, while Tyler Ulis had 26 and had 13, 5 and 2. Either of those guys, you can add them. If a point guard comes back, it's just going to be a mess. It's going to be in and out of the rotation. Then neither of those guys are going to sniff the top 70, probably not sniff the top 90. So whichever one you like better, whichever one you think is going to get the consistent nod, add them. I'd probably stick with James because I do feel like they're having a little bit more confidence in him despite this performance. But that could change. And I don't think if you miss out on Ulis, I don't think you're missing out on this great option. TJ Warren, he got more minutes than Joshy Jackson, 27 and 5. Old Jackson really struggled here, 4 and 6 in 20 minutes. This is going to be one of those ones that goes back and forward as well. And Warren, we know, can be an elite fantasy option. But I feel like his ability to get 30 minutes a game is going to be really, really challenged this season. The Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors. DeMar DeRozan played through his thigh issue. Really weird game for DeRozan. 24-3, but 6 assists and 6 steals. 50% shooting. Actually, it's a fantastic game for him. The Raptors with both Jonas Valanciunas and Bebo Nogueira out. They didn't decide to start Jakob Poeltl. They started Pascal Siakam, who was second on the team with 20 points. Weird. 21 minutes for Siakam. Not much else. 75% shooting. Don't get overly excited about that and think that, I got to add Siakam everywhere. He had been out of the rotation, and rightfully so. Poeltl was much better, in my opinion, than Siakam. 12 and 14, a steal and a block. And he's coming for minutes. He is clearly the second string center. I think that I love what Valanciunas has been doing, but I think that having Poeltl there could actually limit Ibaka's minutes. Now, even in this game, with both Valanciunas and Nogueira out, Ibaka played only 28 minutes. No foul trouble, 15 and 4 with 2 blocks. He just isn't the same guy that he used to be. Delon Wright is legit, 7 and 6 in 29 minutes with 2 assists, and what he is doing is he's really impacting Norm Powell and CJ Miles, who both were under 20 minutes. Powell can go in 12-team leagues. Wright is seriously impacting his minutes, as is Miles, who had 10 points with 2 triples, and he is more of a streamer. OG Anunoby, I thought, looked fantastic and is a great dynasty prospect. Kyle Lowry, 14, 4, and 9, a steal and 2 blocks. Not really what you were after if you drafted him in that second round. I think he was more of a third round, 25 to 35 sort of a player. But just hold tight. Maybe you throw a real buy low at someone and see if you can get that. For the Warriors, Steph had 30 points with 4 triples, 5 assists, and 3 steals. Fantastic. Clay had 22, 8, and 5. Draymond had 15, 11, and 6 with a full line. And Durant had 29, 4, and 5. Big numbers from the big guys. Everyone else, nothing. Iguodala played 30 minutes and didn't score. Took 1 shot. Interestingly, Jordan Bell in the rotation because JaVale McGee was inactive. Nick Young also didn't play, but Bell is coming for these guys' minutes. He played the same minutes as David West. He's ahead of JaVale McGee already. He's ahead of Damian Jones and Kevon Looney. He is a 20-team guy that you should be paying a level of attention to, Bell, and I do like his dynasty upside. Really is coming for those guys. The backup shooting guard situation with Young, McCaw, and even Caspi, it feels like it's going to alternate on a nightly basis, so Young's not even making out like a great stream option or anything like that because you just don't know when he's going to play or when he's not. The last game of the night goes to overtime and the Lakers pull out the big victory, a big comeback from them. Let's talk about the Wizards first. Bradley Beal, 28 and 6 with 3 steals and a block, 2 triples. Massive game from him. Johnny Wall, not his greatest night, just 32% on 22 shots. 18 points. 3 rebounds, 9 assists from Wall. Another one of those bets that Kyle was trying to get us to have today is who's going to have more assists, Lonzo or John Wall. We both said Lonzo, so the bet didn't happen. And lucky I didn't take the opposite of Lonzo because Lonzo had 10, Wall had 9. But it's a decent night from Wall. I think he's a buy low candidate as well because people will be a little bit disappointed with how he started. Otto Porter, again, started off the game really hot and then just disappears down the stretch. 12, 3, and 3 with 2 steals. It just continually happens while Marcin Gortat played 37 minutes and had 11 and 14. Kelly Oubre, 39 minutes in a start, 9 and 3. I don't believe he is a 12-team league guy, especially with Jason Smith back and Markieff Morris about 3 or 4 games away from returning. On to the Lakers. Julius Randle didn't play really at all until he played down the stretch and closed the game and had 11 and 9 with 3 blocks. It's really hard to get a handle on anything that Luke Walton is doing with any of his rotations. Randle, in some situations, can be dropped. I would still hold in most 12-teamers. In 10s, I would be a little bit more on the fence, but I would still hold. Brandon Ingram, 19 and 10. Good night from him in 39 minutes. While Larry Nance, he looks solid as well, but then doesn't play down the stretch. 18 and 10 for Nance. Career high in scoring. Had 2 steals as well. 80% from the field. Trying to get a handle on what Walton's doing is confusing. Their best player, Brook Lopez, played just 23 minutes. 9 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists. Now, he started last season off really slowly, but this is a little bit more concerning because it's more to do with the fact that Walton just doesn't seem to know how to handle a rotation or know what to do with these guys half the time. And I'm becoming quite critical of Luke Walton as a coach. I know they got the victory here, so it's hard to be too critical, but I think a lot of his things he's doing are quite confusing. Kyle Kuzma had 15 points. He didn't do much else. He's a 14-team league guy, I believe. While Jordan Clarkson, who I was talking about quite a bit on the pod the other day, 17 minutes, 8 points, 4 assists. This is why I don't believe that he is a 12-team league guy. The minutes aren't going to be there with everyone back. The usage and the percentage wasn't going to be there, and that's what we saw, especially with Josh Hart forcing himself into the rotation. Hart is good. Hart is a very, very interesting dynasty league guy. It's going to take a while to come through, but I like his dynasty potential quite a bit. I'm not sure why we needed 9 minutes of Corey Brewer or 2 minutes of Andrew Bogut, but here we are. 14, 6, and 5 for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is a really good line for him, especially getting those peripheral numbers, which is not something he usually does. And Lonzo, we're going to see a lot of these from Lonzo, 6, 8, and 10 on 2 of 11 shooting with a steal and a block. Valuable, but the scoring is always going to be a concern, I believe, with Lonzo Ball. All right, that does it for all the action from what day was it? From Wednesday's game. I'm going to take a quick break, and people have been calling, "Hey Josh, where's the music in the transition between the seasonal league and the DFS stuff?" So for those guys who have been calling for that, here's a song. We're back. We're going to talk DFS now, and we're going to look at the perfect DFS lines of the night. On FanDuel, it was Russell Westbrook at 66, TJ McConnell at 41.5. That's a little bit of a fluky one, but I guess with Fultz out, he had that opportunity at really low salary. DeMar DeRozan, 51.6, and JJ Redick at 32. Redick is always a GPP option. LeBron had 64.5, and Jeff Green had 38.7.
My name is Jeff.
That was one that I could never have predicted. Mallow at 44.5, Larry Nance at 34, and Clint Capella at 56 gave a total of 428.8 for a cost of the full $60,000 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it was Spencer Dinwiddie at 40.25, Ingram at 39.5, Jeff Green 37, LeBron at 70, Capella at 54.5. McConnell had 36.75, Toby Harris had 49, and Russ, just a casual, 72.5 for a big total of 399.5, and that cost $49,600. There are 5 games on Thursday, so a lower volume day for DFS purposes, in my opinion. Let's take a look at those now and try and work out where the value may lie. It's not quite as tight as some of the other days. There is still some value to be seen here. The first game we look at is Atlanta and Chicago. The Bulls are favored by 2.5 here. Yes, the Bulls, the winless Bulls. The total is 200.5 points. We need to check on the status of a few guys. Most importantly, Chris Dunn, who is listed as questionable. If he comes back, then Jaren Grant's value is impacted, as is Kay Felder's. For the Hawks, it's Ersan Ilyasova, who is questionable. That more seems to impact Mike Muscala than it does the Baptist John Collins, because Collins has been almost exclusively a backup center. I'd love to see them give him some minutes at power forward, but Ilyasova is going to have more of an impact on Lukey Babbitt and Mike Muscala than on the Baptist. And Marco Bellinelli is listed as probable with an Achilles issue. He should be fine to go, and he should have an opportunity with Dennis Schroeder out to have a decent game. Let's talk point guards in this one. Grant's at 6,500 on FanDuel. Yeah, really good numbers for him in the last one, but the spectre of Dunn makes it a little bit harder to use him, maybe in a tournament. But you should find out you will find out that information before the game tips off. Malcolm Delaney at 4,800. That price rise takes him into GPP only territory. I don't really like him as a player. While Kay Felder at 3,200, we'd only take a look at that if Dunn happens to be out. As for Dunn, not really feeling too much about him. I just don't know what to expect out of him. He's listed as a shooting guard. He's at 4,500. You can use him as a tournament guy, but that's probably about it. At shooting guard, Denzel Valentine's at 3,900. They continue to misuse Valentine, but he's putting up okay numbers, but strictly I'd be using him as a tournament guy, while Bellinelli at 48. I'd more look at him as GPP as well. Justin Holiday is now at 6,700, but he's got the green light at all times. He's going to shoot whenever he wants to. 6,700 for Holiday. I like him here. While Kent Bazemore at 5,700. He had 36 in that last game. I'm okay with using Bazemore in tournaments and in cash games. At small forward, Taurean Prince at 56. I think that's a pretty strong play as well against this Bulls team. While Powell Zipser at 4,200. Well, he exceeded that value in his last game, but I don't put much faith in Zipser being able to do that. At power forward, Lowry, Markkanen, 6,500. For as well as he played, his highest score is only 30 points. His lowest score is 27, and 30 points at 6,500 isn't quite cutting it, but I'll give him the bonus. I'll give him the advantage here of playing against Atlanta, and that does make him a useful play. But just remember, he hasn't reached that value at any point despite his impressive performances. Ersan's at 4,700. Probably not. While the Baptist at 5,700, John Collins, that just feels too high. I know what he can do. He could assault this Bulls team, but I would only look at him as a tournament type guy. The Undertaker, Dwayne Dedmon's at 4,900. He's been shitting the bed a lot. He has had a 27-point game, so he can do it. And against the Bulls, there's an opportunity there, but I would look at him as a tournament guy. While Robin Lopez at 5,800, the minutes are there, the touches are there. I think that's not a bad cash play, Robin Lopez. While Mike Muscala, I don't even care if he starts. There's just nothing that I'm really interested in the Moose, and I do like Muscala. On DraftKings, Markkanen, much better price at 5,900 there. I like him quite a bit. Bellinelli's in play. Jaren Grant and Dwayne Dedmon, tournament-y type guys. I like Justin Holiday. I like Bazemore quite a bit over on DraftKings. Delaney's more appealing at 4,400, but not super appealing, while Robin Lopez at 5,700 is okay, but not as spectacular. Same as Taurean Prince and the Baptist. They lose some value when you go from FanDuel to DraftKings, given the scoring system and their relative prices. Let's move on now to the next game. We're going to be talking about the Dallas Mavericks and the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are favored by 8.5, and the total is 196.5. Back-to-back for both these teams. They just played in Dallas. They're going to Memphis. Low over-under. It doesn't look like a great game from the surface. We need to check the status of Wayne Selden, who will impact guys like Dylan Brooks and Mario Chalmers. Chandler Parsons should be back in the rotation after sitting out the last game. And Joshie McRoberts, well, that doesn't have any impact. At point guard, Mick Conley, 7,500. I think that's fine to use against Dallas. He was fine today, 35 points. Another 35 should feel pretty good with 40-point upside at home. Dennis Smith at 6,300. No, not for me. I think it's just a little bit too high. Chalmers at 42 is an okay play, especially if Selden is out. If Selden is in, I wouldn't be all over that. While JJ Barea at 5,100, look, he's been great. Actually, his lowest score this season is 24 points, so it's not far off that level. So I would be okay with using Barea. I just don't have a massive level of confidence there. At shooting guard, Tyreek at 47. No, not there yet. Yogi Ferrell at 5,300. I feel a level of confidence in Yogi, and I could use him for cash. I don't think his upside is all that high, while Selden and Wes Matthews don't really do it for me. Small forward Dylan Brooks, 4,200. He's averaging 8 points over his last 3 games after that 44-point outburst in the first one. If you want to do anything, use him in a tournament, but that's probably about it. The pencil at 5,900 is too highly priced. Jim Ennis, Chandler Parsons, nothing to see. Dirk at 4,600, no upside, no real reliability, so that's a no in all situations. Same with Jarrell Martin. Centers, Marc Gasol, 8,800, crushed it. And with the way that this slate is sort of set out with these 5 games, I think that's a good use of your 8,800. You're going to get 40 out of Marc. You should feel like you'll get 40 most times anyway. So at 8,800, I think that's pretty good value. Well, Nerlens at 5,000, it's just too risky to use Noel in my opinion. Let's flip that over to DraftKings and have a look at where the value might lie there. I like Yogi a lot more at 4,100 on DraftKings. I like Conley. I like Smith quite a bit at 5,400, a much better price for Dennis Smith. Marc Gasol at 7,500 is almost a lock to me, while Mario Chalmers at 3,600 also has good value. The pencil on DraftKings, better as well. 5,100 for him. I feel like he's almost guaranteed to get that value, and he's got a decent amount of upside there, but I really like the price of the pencil Harrison Barnes, while JJ Barea at 43 is also a really strong play over on DraftKings. Let's move on to the next game now, and we've got the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. Malcolm Brogdon's the injury we need to check up on here. He's not listed on the Bucks injury report. He's listed as a probable starter, so we assume he is ready to go. And then on the Celtics side of things, it's Marcus Smart, who is questionable with his ankle problems. If Smart is out, then Terry Rozier gets a bump in his value, and Jaylen Brown does as well. The Bucks by 4.5 is the line. The total is 207. Let's look at the point guards. I like Brogo quite a bit here at $6,000. He had 33 in that game before he hurt his ankle. I think another 30-point performance could be coming. He's got some value here. While he's not the best point guard on the board, there is something there. While Kyrie at 8,900 showed a little bit in the last game, getting back to that. Well, back to that level he needs to get to. I'd look more as a tournament guy there. Dellavedova, sure, you can look at him as a GPP player at 3,600 if Brogo happens to be out. At shooting guard, Chris Middleton, 7,100, has done well against Boston in the past. He's at 36 points in his last game, 7,100. I'm okay with using him. It is a good matchup for Chris, so I think that's worth it. While Marcus Smart at 6,800, we don't know if he's going to play, so that's a fade there for me. Tone Snell at 4,000, averaging 21 over his last 3. If Brogdon is out, I'm okay with Snell. Low upside, decent cash guy. And Rozier at 5,600. That's way too high unless Smart is out. I want nothing to do with that unless Marcus isn't playing. At small forward, 12,400 for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That is a lot. That is very, very much a lot. But he is averaging 64 over the last 3. If you've got the cash, you feel good that you're going to get 60 out of Giannis. But don't think that he is a must-use. I look at him more as a cash guy because I think everyone will be using him and you could be really in trouble if you don't. So I would look at him more as a cash sort of a play. Jaylen Brown at 6,300. If Marcus Smart is out, it's not a bad situation, but I don't totally love Jaylen Brown at that price. It just feels like it's $500 too expensive. Teletovic and Ojale are the other small forwards on the slate. Not really interested there. Although Mieza did have 15 points and 20 FanDuel points in the last contest, which would have brought you some nice value. At power forward, John Henson, who knows what Kid is going to do, really hard to rely upon him. Jason Tatum, I'd love it, but 7,200, I'm sorry, that's just too high for me. Well, Daniel Tice had 23 in the last game. He's at 3,200. You could do worse than throwing him into a GPP, especially if Marcus Smart happens to be out. At center, screw this. Greg Monroe, Thon McCurr, I cannot trust what Jason Kidd is going to do. GPP, sure, but no high expectations. Well, Al Horford, always overpriced on FanDuel, 7,400. Just continually overpriced. I don't know why that is the case with Horford. He's just always overpriced. On DraftKings, Brogo's at 52. I like that. Chrissy Middleton at 63 also. 12 for Yanni. Al Horford at 68, much better. Kyrie at 87. Jason Tatum at 64 is a much better price over on DraftKings as well, while Tone Snell at 3,800 is also worth a bit of a gander. Let's go on to the second last game of the night. Is the Los Angeles Clippers taking on the Portland Trailblazers. The Blazers, they are favored by 2. And the total is 212, the highest of the night. This is actually a game a day without many high total games. Myers Leonard is doubtful, but you shouldn't really care about that. At point guard, Dame Lillard's at 9,500. Really shit the bed in the last one. Austin Rivers, Pat Bev defense are a concern. So I would use Lillard only as a tournament type of guy. As for Beverly, 6,300. He's been crushing it. That price is quite high. So I'm not totally in on Beverly at that sort of a salary. As for Austin Rivers, at 4,900, that's a no from me. Lou Williams at 5,100 as a tournament guy. He was really weirdly poor in the last one. I think he can bounce back from that. I like CJ at 7,700. And Pat Connaughton, the minutes are there, he's 3,000, and that's what makes him an interesting GPP sort of a guy. He had 14 points in 23 minutes in the last game, and that wasn't even one of his better games. So at $3,000, Connaughton is an interesting fill-in player. At small forward, the Rooster at 6,600 started to get it going. I think a 40-pointer could be on its way for Gallinari. So I like him, but only as a tournament player. Mo Harkless, no. Evan Turner, 5,600. No, not really. Wes Johnson, no. At power forward, Blakey Griffin, 9,800. Love Blake, real 50-point potential here. I really, really like him in this situation. While Al-Farouq Aminu, the Chief, at 5,200. Had some solid games recently. I think that there's very limited upside, and he's not a bad cash play if you're looking for that cheap option. Ed Davis went off in the last one, but remember that Yusuf Nurkic was dealing with foul trouble, and that enabled Davis to play 21 minutes. I'm not really banking on that again. At centre, we've got Nurkic at 7,500. I really like that. And I like DeAndre at 8,200 as well. Both of those centres are in pretty good spots here in this matchup, I believe. Let's move over to DraftKings and see what changes. Well, not much. Nurkic is good value. Lillard is much better on DraftKings at 85. The Rooster, Beverly is in a better spot as well at 5,200. Much better spot. CJ, DeAndre, Connaughton, Griffin, and even Evan Turner at 5,000 has some value over on DraftKings. Let's go now to the last game of the night. It is the New Orleans Pelicans and the Sacramento Kings. The good news is Anthony Davis is listed as questionable, and I've held off speaking about this until now, but Josh Smith, Jay Smooth, is going to be signed by the Pelicans, and is questionable to play in this game. Now, he is trash. I have never seen a dumber NBA player in my last 5 years of watching this game, I don't think. How can you have as little self-awareness as what Josh Smith does? The fact that he continually takes bad shots when he could out-athletic pretty much everyone in his prime. He is just a bafflingly bad player. This is a crazy, crazy roster. It is insane to try and work out what's going to happen. But are they going to try and squeeze Smith in at the 3? Because their options are Dante Cunningham, who's shitful. Jameer Nelson's here now. Like, where does Smith fit in? Does he play backup behind Davis and Cousins because Ajinça, Ashik are out? And Solomon Hill's out, and Dante Cunningham's terrible, and Cheick Diallo, they've lost faith in him. What the hell does this mean for this whole team? It is just as confusing as anything. I don't get it at all. Anyway, Anthony Davis is questionable. If Anthony Davis is out and Josh Smith is in, maybe, but I don't even think Josh Smith is on the slate. No, he doesn't even have a price, so I don't think we need to. We clearly don't need to worry about him in DFS. It's just the strangest roster I've seen in quite a while. At point guard, Jameer Nelson at 4,000. There's a chance he starts in this one. He played 31 in the last game. I like him at that sort of a price. As for Drew at 7,300, more of a tournament guy, especially if Davis is out, because it does give him more usage alongside Boogie. Georgie Hill at 5,300. I want nothing to do with George Hill. While De'Aaron Fox at 5,700, I'm in on De'Aaron Fox. I think the minutes are there. He had 39 in the last game. He's averaging 32 across the last 3 games. At 5,700, I am in on De'Aaron Fox. Ian Clark at 41. I think Clark has got some decent cash value, actually, just to get me my 20 with a marginal bit of upside. At shooting guard, I like Bogdan Bogdanovic at 4,600. He had 25 in 25 minutes in his debut, which was obviously impressive. I like him there. Bud Hield, you can take him, and Garrett Temple at 42 is not doing it for me. At small forward, Dante Cunningham has this for a shitful group. Dante Cunningham, Justin Jackson, Tony Allen, Darius Miller, Vince Carter. Yeah, I don't think you'll be rostering a small forward out of this game. At power forward, Tone Davis at 11,500. Hey, you want to get some balls and play him out there? Tournaments only, clearly, because we don't know if he's going to be ready to go, but it could actually work out because his ownership could be low. Zebo at 4,500, I'll pass on that one, I believe. And Scal at 5,000, tournaments, because we just don't know how that Randolph-Labissiere minute split is going to go. At center, 5,700 for Willie Cauley-Stein against DeMarcus Cousins. Maybe a little bit too highly priced, but I'm okay at looking him in a tournament. But Cousins just eats guys up, and that makes it tough. As for Boogie, 11,800, you have to roll him out there. Against his former team in Sacramento, the potential of no Davis. This is a 70-point opportunity for DeMarcus Cousins, so I think you really do have to look at him at $11,800. All right, let's have a look at Yahoo, some of the guys that I like here. Jaren Grant, Justin Holiday, Marco Bellinelli, Lauri Markkanen, great value on all those players. Austin Rivers, Dwayne Dedman and Bogdan Bogdanovic, Jameer Nelson, Yogi Ferrell and Mario Chalmers, all cheap guys with superb upside. I like Chris Dunn, Denzel Valentine and The Baptist as tournament-only guys, especially Dunn. Lou Williams and De'Aaron Fox I think are nicely priced, as is Yusuf Nurkic. Malcolm Brogdon, a GPP sort of a player. I like Marc Gasol and DeAndre Jordan, Giannis and Boogie as the more expensive guys over on Yahoo. Now, on Moneyball, the pricing continues to be just ridiculous. I'm not sure what's going on. Justin Holiday is still 3,500. Jaren Grant is still 3,500. Jason Tatum is 4,000. It's like they haven't adjusted anything since the start of the season on those guys. It is bananas. It is really, really making it hard given the pricing here on Moneyball. And I know they're trying to do it to give people this, oh, look at these scores that I get. High scores are better. It's like the 2020 cricket mentality. Just tighten your pricing up. It's bullshit. And the fact is that a Draft Stars in Australia has followed the same price. They dropped nearly everyone $1,500 yesterday to open up the pricing and make it less tight. It's bullshit. Fix it. It is just, and there's probably no one listening from Draft Stars or Moneyball, but fix it. Get your pricing right. Bloody, I'll do it for you. I will do your pricing for you because this is bullshit. These prices are ludicrous. There is 80 guys you could use on a day, even with 5 games on. Holiday, Grant, Tatum, Bellinelli, Delaney, Markkanen, Turner, Bogdanovic, Bazemore, Rozier, Conley, Nurkic, Lopez. There's value in all these guys. Drew and Jalen look great. Boogie at 10-9 is superb. The Baptist, the Rooster, De'Aaron Fox, good numbers for all those guys. Mario Chalmers, Taurean Prince, DeAndre Jordan, super value. And the same thing's happening on Draft Stars. Jameer, Delaney, Bellinelli, Rivers, Nurkic, Ferrell, Holiday, Justin, that is, Andrew, Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Grant, all priced at bananas low prices. Chalmers and Middleton, Mick Conley, love him here. The Rooster, Etuan Moore, Pat Connaughton for a tournament. Lillard, smash Lillard at Draft Stars, I reckon at 1,600, even with Pat Beverly, he's so cheap. Giannis at 20,000, love it. DeAndre at 13,000, love it. Kyrie at 14.9, all over it. Boogie at 20, yes. Blake Griffin at 17, love it. There is this value all over the place on Draft Stars and Moneyball, and it needs to be tightened up. It is just way too loose with that pricing. All right, that brings us to the end of this podcast. Make sure you are checking out LockedOnFantasyBasketball.com, which will have all the podcasts on there. Of course, Basketball Monster as well. If you are watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button, click the thumbs up, and leave a comment below. And subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, or Spotify, and leave a 5-star review. It is a great way of supporting the show. All right, we are done here, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Joel Embiid.